Hi, I'm Angelique Napoleon. I go by Q. I am the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer for the Intelligence and Homeland Security Division here at GDIT. Today we're going to be talking to Dr. Mischa Beckett on cyber threat intelligence. So I'll turn it over.
Thanks, Q. My name is Dr. Mischa Beckett. I am the Director of Cyber Threat Intelligence for our Federal Civilian Division within GDIT.
Great. Let's start off with some questions.
Sounds good.
Can you tell me a little bit about what cyber threat intelligence is and why it's so important to our government customers?
Sure. So, at its most basic level, cyber threat intelligence is little nuggets of information that help you detect, prevent, predict cyber threat activity. So I like to think of it as falling into a couple different buckets. Sometimes examples help people understand. So at a tactical level, CTI really has more to do with discrete technical nuggets of information, like indicators of attack, indicators of compromise, to help you assess whether a cyber threat actor is targeting your environment, or perhaps worst case scenario has already breached your environment and perhaps is moving around. So tactical CTI can really inform day-to-day operations, right? Where are you looking? What are your network defenders doing? When you pull up a little bit to the operational level, we think about things like TTPs, which are tactics, techniques, and procedures. Okay. So these are more generalized bits of technical information. How does an advanced persistent threat actor do something? How do they move throughout your network? How do they prefer to attack you? When we pull up even further, we get to strategic CTI, which is more high level, big picture, right? So what is a threat actor? What are their capabilities? How sophisticated are they? What's their intent? Are they interested in targeting your organization or not so much? Strategic CTI can really help you determine where to direct your resources, help you determine longer term technical investments, right? So for something like implementing zero trust, it would really help you to know what threat actors are interested in your environment, what their capabilities are, what sorts of data they want to target, right? This can help you with data labeling. It can help you with defenses and your choices of investments for tooling, technology, and for expertise.
Would you say it helps an organization be more proactive versus reactive? Because we see a lot of that with some of the customers. They know about a threat actor that's breached their system when it's too late.
Absolutely. I think ideally CTI really helps you be predictive and proactive. You want a sense of who's interested in you, what sort of data they're interested in, how capable they are, and how they tend to behave, right? So you can really direct your defender's eyes in the right places, and you can think about what technology investments make sense, right? Yeah. If the actors targeting you are still really focused on phishing, that's going to look different than if they're really focused on cloud, for instance, and exploiting the authentication path, right? You're going to think differently about your tooling and your technical investments depending where your adversaries are tending to target and how they're attempting to target you.
I like that. Given the high profile for the cyber intrusions that we've seen across the government, is there any recommendation that you've got for some of the government organizations to look at CTI maybe in a different lens?
Sure. So I think, we hear more and more about cyber every day. And I think when we're talking about intrusions to critical infrastructure, it helps to think about what that really means to all of us, right? Think about traffic lights not working reliably. Think about not being sure that the water is going to be clean when you turn on the tap, right? Or that power is reliable. This is the level of disruption we're really thinking about. And so it's incredibly important for the private sector and the government to really pull together when it comes to intel sharing and to really focus on, we spend a lot of time in the CTI world on tactical, those discrete technical nuggets that tell us a specific thing to look for. There's value there, but that is always reactive. The more we can pull up to be thinking about big picture, if somebody's burrowing into our critical infrastructure, what do they want? Why are they doing that? Are there certain actions that U.S. government or private sector takes that are likely to spike a cyber threat response, right? The more we can think about that ahead of time and look at predictive, look at trends, look at what kinds of actions are triggers, the more likely it is that we can stay ahead or at least be less behind than we often are now when we're thinking about CTI.
How do you feel about data sharing? Because within CTI, I think that's such an important component. How quickly can we share that data, the way you said, between government organizations and the private sector? Because everyone has to play a role, and we have so many ISACs that are stood up across the world. I think data sharing is really important. What are your thoughts?
I think so too. You're preaching to the choir there.
Right.
You know, I've been struck throughout my time in cyber by the extent to which a lot of the hardest challenges are not technical. They're human. They're around communicating. And I think there's still a lot of reluctance. Private sector, sometimes U.S. government, are along the lines of information sharing, right? We don't want to admit if we've been breached. We don't want to talk about who's targeting. But the reality is that bigger is better and more is better when it comes to CTI. And I think the more we look at this as a whole of society effort, you know, that there's no shame in me being targeted or breached. It's a matter of time, right? But I can take what I've learned from that and share that to save others from the same fate, right? So that pulling together, that working through kind of the human and cultural barriers to sharing in addition to technical ones, I think that's kind of at the heart of the matter for me.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of organizations targeted, not just at the state and local level, but we have tribal entities. We have people that aren't really connected to the big cyber picture. How do we reach them with cyber threat intelligence? So we said there are a bunch of nuggets. How do you put that information out there so that it's accessible and they understand what they're getting?
Sure.
Because you can read a report and get lost just reading some of these reports. I don't know what APT-33 is. I don't know who Fancy Bear is. But once we start, you know, watering it down, do you think if we make things more digestible?
I do think that can really be helpful. I think we have some really good mechanisms in place. You know, ISACs can be fantastic. GD does that internally, for instance, that there are good organizations out there designed to disseminate information well. To your point about making cyber understandable, right? I think part of what we need to do in the CTI world is a translation function, right? If I say, APT-29 is really interested in collecting your email data. What do I really mean, right? Like, how do I explain that to very bright, capable lay people who have no background in cyber? I need to be able to do that. My CTI folks need to be able to do that. I need to be able to tell you what's the gist of what I'm saying, why does it matter to you, and what you can do to prevent it, right? So the more I think we look at our CTI folks as not just technical experts, but as communicators, and think about how we mentor and train people and build relationships. To me, that human component, that's how we get the word out. That's how we share CTI. That's how we drive home to people why it matters for their day-to-day lives. This isn't just a national or international issue by any means.
Right, because a lot of the CTI analysts don't always talk to the IT people. And I found that in cyber, the IT people and the cyber people, they don't always speak the same language. And I've always said you have to be that translator. We have to have some sort of descramblization of the terms, because what means something in IT doesn't always mean the same thing to a cyber or CTI analyst. So it's having that common translation for all of the terms, just so you know the threat actor is looking for the following. Here's how you do it.
Absolutely. I think that common lexicon and common language is really important. And when you think about, you know, cyber folks are really concerned with security and integrity, and IT folks may be much more focused on availability, right? That's their mission. They should be. But we need a way to communicate each other's priorities so that we're understanding each other, and that we're really all in the national security game together, and we need to understand that.
Love it. So what are your thoughts on AI and machine learning within the CTI space? I see a lot of vendors, they love to say AI, they love to talk about machine learning, but how does it help our analysts? What's that going to do for us in the end?
That's a great question. Like, what's this mean outside of buzzwords, right? You know, I think as is often true with kind of major technical leaps forwards or technological leaps forward, the offensive folks are getting on board more quickly than the defensive side of the house when it comes to AI and ML. So there's that, right? We need to keep up. We need to take that seriously because it's pushing their capabilities ahead, and we don't want to lag behind on the defensive side. You know, I think best case scenario, you know, machine learning, AI, it's not going to replace human cyber defenders, I don't think, in the near term. It can be very effective at detecting anomalies, which is really good for cyber threat. It's good for insider threat. It's good for fraud and cybercrime, right? So if I can use AI and ML to flag issues that my human CTI folks take a look at, right? That's where I see some of the sweet spot that we're getting to the place where that is possible, right? AI isn't taking our jobs, but it's helping us harness our really good CTI brain power to focus on not manual, repetitive things, not sifting through everything, right?
The false findings, getting drowned out in those false findings.
Exactly. So let's use those tools to help us focus. Let's automate. Let's sift through and visualize, and then let's put our really smart human brains on the things we think are more likely to be bad. I think that's where it can help speed things up for us on the defensive front.
I like that. So do you think that AI/ML will help facilitate more collaboration between organizations? We're talking about the disparate organizations, the tribal, the state, the local, the people who don't have the same national level resources that we see in our jobs every day.
I hope so. I mean, I think there's the potential for it to really be a force multiplier for smaller entities. I think there's a potential for that to facilitate communication. You know, it's like any technology. This can be used in good and bad directions. And the best case scenario, I think, is that we use it to help the human brain power and to help get over the communication and the technological challenges to information sharing.
Really pushing us more towards that proactive versus reactive stance that we see so much in cyber.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Looking ahead, what do you see some of the emerging trends in CTI?
This is a good question. So continuing on the AI front, right? I think right now, AI is going to make existing threat vectors faster, more sophisticated, more effective, right? Like, one of the things we talk about with FedCiv customers who are focused on security operations is, what if you get spear phishing or a voice call that sounds exactly like your boss, right? Because AI is so much better at that than human beings are. That's going to be tricky to detect, right? We're going to need that defensive AI ML to help on the detection side of things, because grammatical mistakes or the things we used to point users towards, to detect phishing are going to be few and far between, right? So there's that component. That's something I'm thinking about. Just everything we're dealing with being ramped up because of AI and ML. I'm also thinking a lot about, on the threat front, the vulnerability landscape is so challenging, and it's just seems like it's exponentially increasing, right?
It is.
This is something I see as a real pain point across a lot of my customers. And it's something at GDIT we think about internally, right? We're a 30,000 person IT company, right? Everybody needs a really good strategy for managing this. Threat can help you prioritize those things, right? When you think about your a large inventory, staying on top of patching, CTI information can help you prioritize what you need to fix first. What's high value? What's at most risk? Where we think the nation state actors that we're concerned about are going to go to. So to me, that's a lot of the value of CTI, is prioritizing where we put the resources, be those financial or human. There's a lot of value there, I think.
I think there's some value with the collaboration that we have with our cyber alliance and the vendors, and how we work with them in lockstep to make sure that we're a step ahead of our adversaries when it comes to vulnerability management, because they're the first ones targeted. If it's not the firewall they're attacking, it's the server. So I think us having that collaborative relationship with the vendors really helps us, and that's what makes us stand out, I think, as far as our competition. But for emerging threats, most definitely, I agree with you. I think our nation states, they're getting a little bit faster, and thanks to AI and ML, they're going to increase. So I think we have to step it up. Do you think we have to re-educate some of our workforce now that we have AI in the mix? The spoofings are better, the vishing attempts are better.
Absolutely, I do. I think this is going to change. It needs to change basic end user awareness training about cyber threat, right? We need to think about ramping that up to deal with the severity of the threat. So absolutely there. And then too, on the CTI front, the cybersecurity front generally, right? We need education for defenders on what does it mean when we talk about artificial intelligence versus generative AI as a subset versus machine learning. Is that co-equal to AI, right? All these questions are coming up in day-to-day ops with folks, and just having an understanding of of what it means when we use this terminology, what is possible now, what might be possible down the line, and what we're seeing from adversaries. I think that sort of continuing education, both on the end user front and for cyber defenders, is really important to kind of at least keep up with, hopefully stay ahead of the threat environment.
And I think if the cyber defenders understand, where these capabilities are going to help them with their job, I think there's that open embrace to the technology rather than giving it the Heisman, keeping it at distance. And that's what we tend to do, I think, as humans. We'll keep things at bay for the things that we just don't understand up front. But education, I believe, just like you do, we have to educate our defenders and our user community. GD has a huge user community.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think this is one of the areas of cyber threat intelligence I'm most passionate about. I think educating folks at whatever level is appropriate for their job can be really, it's a way to attach us to the mission, right? It's a way of, reminding us of why cybersecurity matters and why we're doing what we're doing day to day, and making those day to day, sometimes mundane tasks, reminding you how meaningful they are, right?
Because we all do a job that matters. This company has such a diverse portfolio. If we're not defending healthcare, we're working in the defense sector, intelligence and Homeland Security. We see the whole breadth. We see that whole cyber life cycle. Dr. Beckett, where can people get more information about cyber threat intelligence?
Well, I'm so excited that this is really an area of cybersecurity that I'm passionate about. And so we've just published a white paper really focused on how to use CTI, really looking at use cases. How do you use this, right? What is CTI? How do I use it effectively? Can I really shift from reactive to more of a predictive phase, right? How do I convince the executives in my organization that this matters, that this is worthwhile, in terms of investment? So really some strategy, and I hope some insight around those kind of areas and approaches to actually putting CTI to good use in your organization.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Beckett. I have had so much fun talking with you today.
Likewise, Q. Thank you so much for your time.